Hello, hello, friends and gamers. I am the Web3 gamer, and I am here with, I should ask this before we record. I do this every time. Danny? Or is it Donnie?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, Danny? Okay, awesome. Danny
Well,
from Wham.
it depends from which part of the world you're pronouncing it.
Americans are going to be like Danny. Europeans,
Awesome.
other people are going to be probably more like Donnie. But how would you pronounce it? Because you're from Romania, right?
Yeah, in Romania it's Dani. So
Donnie.
it's
Okay. So there you go.
yeah,
Well, let's keep it
yeah,
authentic, man. That's your
yeah.
roots. So I appreciate you taking time to talk to me. You're only the second person I have ever talked to on this show from Romania, and it's always crazy to realize. I'm glad. I feel like Romania, people in Romania would say Romania is on the map, but I feel like unfortunately, geographically, people don't think about Romania except for Dracula's castle when it's so beautiful and has so much more to offer than that.
Well, I can only say that just come and visit. And the other thing is, we are on the map, but it's not like, oh, we have to talk about it, so we're on the map. We're doing stuff. We're here. We're talking about it, so it's already an amazing progress.
Right. Well, and so I guess I'm curious, like, you started your first company when you were 21, Idea Studios, correct? I'm curious, can you talk about
Yeah.
how that early experience in gaming industry really led you to this full creation now, Web3, and the creation of WAM?
So it was 2007. I come from a regular Romanian family that was started their, let's say, life post-communist Romania, where you just grew up poor, and it was the majority of people. It was the status quo, and in the early 2000s, actually, 97, 98, the first internet cafe was launched in the neighborhood that I was living in, and computers just got me. Fast forward to the 21 years of age, and back then with my high school buddy decided, okay, let's make a company. The main reason why we created a company was to be able to invoice potential clients, web design. He was doing SEO, so we have a legal means of invoicing them and receiving money. While we were doing it, we think of it like this: when we went to the uh, uh, national registration office to register the company, the lady there just looked at us and like, "How old are you?" And like 21. And it was not like now when it's kind of normal for young people to just go and register. It was like, okay, your diapers are showing.
Right.
Why are you here? Okay. So we created a company, and for a few months we did a bit of freelance work, but then the opportunity came with gaming portals. Back then, Flash was big, but we had no idea about it, like nothing. Like, and we just started rolling with the punches, right? I made the website. I started reaching out to publishers, started learning what are Flash games, how they're made, how they're programmed. You had ActionScript 2, you had ActionScript 3. Okay, but I need the graphics. What type of games? And that was the start of a gaming career that still haunts me till this day. Haunts me. It's a Halloween theme type of slang, in the sense that it provided the first intro into an industry that is global, that is multicultural, that is fast, that is technology oriented, which I'm naturally attracted to because I have many diseases and this is one of them. And yeah, this is how the first company got to be. We had no idea about how to manage it, how to build a team, nothing. It's like you just landed on planet Earth and you don't know what is what, and you put everything in your mouth and get rabies and shit, you know.
Right.
So, yeah, and that's how we started. But we started. We also learned. So I got to wear many hats, unlike the cool one that I have today. I wore from I don't know, the CTO hat, the CFO hat, the CEO hat, the COO hat, at a point I had so many hats, I had just to find other people to put the hats on because I was looking stupid. And that was actually a good time because I got to learn the ropes of everything that happens in a business. And I also got to interact with companies from Western Europe, right? Just imagine, okay, back then, the idea that Romania is on the map, like what we started with, was not that common, right? So Romania was still a post-communist country that was fighting uh, inflation and political struggles and whatnot. It's not like today is different. We're in the same fucking scenario, but with better internet connection and better hats, right? And we got to produce games, and we started having customers, and we also learned what the publishing deal is about. Like, what do you mean you publish games and you make money out of ads and you generate revenue and profits and whatnot? And that is where we learned. I personally learned a lot of things during that time. At a point, we were the biggest indie game studio in Eastern Europe. We had more than 25 million users per month on our gaming portals.
Damn.
And
Wow.
that required infrastructure, which I built, that required a smart allocation of resources in terms of servers and data centers, not to basically fill our bill up every month because it would eat up our profits. And doing this and seeing where Flash was dead in 2014, I think it was dead, right? So we had to switch to HTML5, and I loved it from the get-go, but for two reasons. First, it was like the new kid on the block, and secondly, it ran in the browser without any plugins. So that is when I could say that was the trigger point when I kind of felt that browser technology and especially like progressive web apps are going to be the future. What I didn't know is how far into the future this future is, right? And started experimenting with reactive web apps and the technology behind them. It was fascinating to see that you can build a web app that behaves like an app, but you build it in less time with less resources, less cost, and it's easier to actually get it on your phone. At least for me, that was I thought back then. Of course, you have iOS where you have to do that stupid add to home screen, and they don't quite support it properly yet. But Android did a better job, right? And kept experimenting and really wanted to make a platform. This is my specialty. Creating platforms where you could have a specific type of gaming experience. Like the way I would have fun with my friends. I know there are a lot of portals. I know there are a lot of, you have the App Store, you have the Google Play and whatnot. I don't care about that. I care about building a platform where you can have the type of fun that is almost just barely, let's say, decent. What I mean by that is the type of fun that you have when you're a kid. Like when you're with friends, the amount of entertainment that comes from doing stupid things, simple but stupid things, is immeasurable. And we kind of lose it when we grow up, right? So if you one night you're bored and you just text me, Danny, I'm bored. Then what? If we like, let's say we're halfway around the world, but I still want to play some, I don't know, competitive shit, and then flip you off. Haha, you lost, or you do the same thing, and you
Right.
say, oh, your mother's a three-legged horse or whatnot. This, what I see, should be embedded in a platform so it's easy to access this type of fun because a lot of people, from what we've seen in the past 3 years, actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
And Fast forward to 2021 when we decided to simplify our lives and enter crypto. And hint, this was a very sarcastic comment. We saw the opportunities even bigger for building something that is actually meaningful, simple to use for everybody, and that also has the potential of being valuable in terms of economic value for the participants in the platform. So these are 20 years compressed in 10 minutes.
Right. Well, and it's interesting that you brought up because you talk about kind of like that core fundamental idea of even as simple for me as a kid, like couch co-op with like my brother and my cousins. Like, you know, you're playing a game together in the room, whether competitively or you're watching someone else, and you can have that live time, like, oh, I beat you, I'm better than you, whatever, you know, shit talking, all that. But now
Yeah.
we're in this, you can have it on a global platform. And so I really get what you're saying. You know, it speaks to my heart when you're talking about the platform, the unique like attachment you're trying to capture, what you're trying to give to that community. And of course, as you said sarcastically earlier, jumping into crypto made everything so much easier. I think everybody saw the opportunity, especially coming from a different sector of gaming, and doesn't regret their choice to go into crypto. But yes, it truly, you were charting unknown territory, especially at the time. So, you know, being able to build that platform in a place where nothing had kind of been proven before by somebody else, so you didn't have a framework to follow, so to speak. You either were going off your past framework and going, well, these don't work, so what's the new framework? So I could see it was incredibly difficult and frustrating, and probably there were moments where you're like, man, why did we do this?
No, no, it was okay. You can see my hand twitching.
Well, and so, you know, you've created this platform really to kind of, you know, unite these people, bring people together, give them that fundamental experience you're talking about. And I mean, is there a way you really want this to evolve in the future to change with gaming, or you really just, you know, you've kind of achieved that core fundamental idea where people can move freely between games with their assets, they can really enjoy, you know, the competitiveness, the player unification, or is there something more you're trying to hope to bring with WAM at a later date?
My vision for WAM, which by the way stands for the World Arcade Machine, so the world part is very important, is not to be just the other one of the other platforms that exists online that you can access and then you forget about it, and we I don't know, make some money out of ads and what's it called, crypto transactions. No, I want it to be the number one platform in the world for this specific type of content where people can have fun, where they can actually decide that it's the best platform they can be on for this type of entertainment, for this type of value exchange in a safe way. When I mention safe, I mention it from past experiences with hackers, with scammers. Oh man, the past 3 years have been um, filled with lessons, right? In this respect. And I wanted to be the leading platform for crypto gaming, for play to earn, for competitive gaming, but not stopping at this. One of the main things that I've learned in the past 20 years is when you're in the developer seat, regardless of the technology that you're using, one of the most tedious things that can present themselves in your daily life is, oh, new tech, you have to integrate it, and it fucks up your focus on the main thing that you're doing, and that is creating games. And in our vision, one of the main pillars for WAM is opening up a developer program. This will come later on when we get even more users onboarded. But what that means is, okay, how do people do it today? You have a gatekeeper, right? You have Apple, you have Google, but you also have the big platforms that are behaving exactly like them, in especially when it comes to publishing power and monetization, right? And the main actors that actually produce value, which are game developers creating fun content, get shorted in a way or the other, Like if I'm a platform and I don't, we get in a quarrel. I don't know. Or I don't like something today. I'm gonna just take off your games, right? Or the monetization is not transparent. I don't have direct reporting to ads to see, okay, did I really make this amount of ad revenue? Or you don't have necessarily bargaining power in terms of the titles that you make versus the revenue share that you give to the platforms. And I want WAM to be different in the sense that it's to be a permissionless platform where based on community feedback and user feedback, your game goes up or down or gets discovered or not. Not because I, as a platform, have a mood swing today and decide that you're good enough or you're not good enough.
Well, that's really no. So one, it's permissionless in the sense of the community is truly deciding what's going to drive a game's success or failure, and truly it removes the if we want to call it the tyrannical overlord of judgment for who decides what game. Because I get what you're saying, especially with most games going digital now. It's a constant thing you see with kind of older platforms. People will be like, this game is getting removed from this digital store, and if you don't have a physical copy, they're like, there's no longer a way to get this format. And people who are all about history preservation of video games are like, don't worry, we've got it uploaded in 30 places, but the average user who's not savvy with this can no longer do it. And so
Yeah.
I think it's an important thing that you're talking about, of really being like, it's not you're judging and deciding where do these games go, how do they be successful. You're letting a community go, we enjoy playing this game, we have so much fun with it that we're going to keep talking about it, getting other people involved, and make sure it stays at the forefront of our platform. So even if you were just like, I hate it and I wish I could take it down, you're like, too bad the infrastructure I built is never going to work that way, even if that's what I was subject to, like those whims and
The,
wills.
there's also one thing that we noticed. Everybody has their own flavor of games.
Right.
So maybe you like, I don't know, chess games, chess
Mhm.
tournaments, chess competitions. Maybe I don't like them, but I like hyper casual with a certain theme. Maybe endless runners, or I don't know, skill games for putting, I don't know, throwing darts at a wall.
Mhm.
And what we noticed is that you can have micro communities that are really hyper engaged around a certain title.
Mhm.
And this type of engagement actually can last for years because it's not about necessarily new content. And I'm going to touch a subject here, which is very shortly about AI.
Mhm.
This will also change. AI will change these games um, as it will enable endless content, updatable content based on your skill, based on your mood, based on your history. So this is a direction we're taking with the entire product, by the way, AI enabled, because it brings a lot of value to the titles, right? And
Right.
as a platform, our main job is to make the technology proper, to bring in the users, and to offer easy ways for games to interact with all the functionality without them having the hassle of for instance, running a model.
Mhm.
Why would you run a model right now? You need special hardware, you need a lot of things. And by the way, this can be decentralized as well and rewarded so everybody participates. And having this in mind, this is the reason that this sets us apart. This is what I like. I want, if every who's watching, right? What should
Mhm.
you remember after this talk? We're all about ungodly natural fun. We're about the technology behind what we're building, and I especially emphasize the browser tech, which is
Mhm.
amazing and can do like this is the future. And now we're getting to that future where I saw it like 7 years ago, and AI will make things even more fun. So these are the things that if you're watching, just remember that WAM is doing these things, and we're either that we're building or not, we're still going to that direction as an industry, or at least part of it. And the crypto gaming industry of things, a pillar of industry, is only growing because it offers access to games to people that have not considered themselves to be gamers up to this point, or their behavior related to games is a bit more passive than active, very hardcore gamers that play all day.
Right. Well, and so could you maybe elaborate more, unless it was what you're talking about earlier, on the browser tech, since you were saying that's like a big
Yeah,
one of your three pillars.
the the promise, the killer tech that was promised about 7 or 8 years ago was the progressive web app, which is basically a website on steroids that uses reactive frameworks to display and render the content on your page. That makes things smoother and whatnot. And with progressive web apps, you install a service worker, which is another part of the technology, and you can add it to your home screen, especially on your phone, but also on your desktop. So all of a sudden you have an icon that you can click or tap, and it opens up like a native app. The difference is you don't go through the App Store, you don't go through Google Play. It's a direct link to your web app.
Hmm.
And it can also, by the way, it can also be used as a Telegram mini app with a small tweak. So this brings and presents a lot of opportunity. You have a single code base, you develop a lot faster, and you distribute it with, let's say, you distribute it easier. You only have to do, for instance, SEO. If you want to publish it in the App Store, you just put a web view around your web app, and boom, you have a native app as well. And it's just, it's so cool, man. I'm excited. My words are in my head are faster than the ones that are coming out of my mouth, so I have
It's all
to really
good.
pick the ones. And but the main thing is, it's faster, and it eliminates the need of going through gatekeepers. So this is the main thing that I have in my mind when I'm thinking about this type of technology. Okay, it's cool, you can do a lot of things, it looks like an app, it behaves like an app, blah, blah, blah. But one of the other things that is important is that you basically have a website that is searchable. You can index it in Google. You can have free traffic. You can put it as an app on iOS and Android. You can also publish it as a Telegram mini app. So all of a sudden, you have more access to your community without the fear of losing this access because the gatekeeper just decided. I had apps on the App Store that were taken down without notice, without any type of explanation, and that was it, right? So
Right.
I
Well,
lost 6 months of work.
right. Or potential revenue, if those were revenue generating
Yeah,
applications,
yeah.
and well, and I guess too, what you were getting at is that really, like, not only does it make things more efficient, it removes that worry or that concern with, somebody overreaching and removing literally your name of income as well as your work. Do you think it also lowers the threshold for maybe like new creators of being able to, maybe it less complicates the system of essentially being like, instead of having to learn how to connect multiple devices and ideas, you're just like, if you can figure out this process, like, this is kind of the tried and true process for a lot of users or creators, I should say, at this point.
Just imagine this. Going back to the communist Romania when I started out, I was in the 10th grade in high school, and that is when I started learning Flash, right?
Hmm.
Because I was playing a game online and people had a forum, and on that forum, people were bragging that they make money online, and I was poor as shit, and I was behind my haircut with 3 months, so I got frustrated, and I started learning ways to make money, and I soon did. It was like 2002. I'm that old. And back then, I had access to only a very stupid computer compared to other computers on the market because that is all we could afford.
Hmm.
But it was an amazing technology that I had on my hands, and it didn't matter. Now imagine the same thing because you mentioned creators, if it helps them or what's changed. Building apps today, depending on what your requirement is. So I'm not talking about regular apps that sell courses, right? You have builders of apps that with a few clicks and you have an app. No, I'm talking about gaming related apps that require more customization, more in tech knowledge, and development. When, for instance, if you want to publish it to iOS and you want to continuously do it, you need a Mac. That's the end of the story. If you want to put it on Android, you can do it in a slow computer, but it's going to take a while. Versus you build the shell apps for iOS and Android in a cloud service that allows you to do it, as I mentioned before. So you just need a web view that loads a URL and opens up the APIs to the underlying web page. And then on your PC, regardless of how fast it is, you start building a React web app or a Vue Next web app, and you get it up and running in no time. Plus, it allows you to update your content without having to update the app shell, right? Because it's no longer necessary, right? So these are, I would say, very good selling points for this type of approach. And
Right.
and just think about this. Telegram announced yesterday, I believe, in their channel, new updates and new capabilities for Telegram, including the one that enables you to save mini apps on your home screen on Android. This is exactly what I just mentioned, but directly handed to you on a plate from Telegram. And Telegram has 1 billion users, and it's growing, and the feel of the app and what it can do and what you're allowed to do is amazing, and it will, in my point of view, will grow a bit more because it's just fun. It's that type of app that touches this, let's say, the type of fun I mentioned that I want for WAM, because you have stickers, you have all sorts of reactions, and the whole conversation is made a lot more fun. So this is in a very long response, an answer to your question.
No, that's fine. You can, the long responses are what we want. The thing I don't want is in 5 words or less you answer the question. Well, and so too, like, you've designed WAM as this kind of play to earn platform. And I'm curious, when you were starting out, was that initially your intention? And how did you go about to make it a sustainable ecosystem where, it's profitable for you as a company so that you don't go, hey, we're going to go under in 6 months because we're not making money, but able to reward your players on that platform to keep it, continuously going?
Okay, do you want a PR answer or you want the psych ward real
You,
answer?
you know I want the psych ward real answer.
Okay. When we started out with assumptions, and the assumption was, hey, we're going to put the token inside the app, and people are going to use the token, and we're going to drive demand. And, well, we started an economy. Based on this assumption and looking back, that type of assumption would be perfect for a government employee that just wants to run the economy, has no idea what that is about, but gets the cash to do it. What we've learned in the past 3 years is that play to earn is still developing, and it's going to be a thing. But it takes time. Right now we're in that phase, still in that phase of entropy, where a lot of chaos happens.
Mm-hmm.
And out of that primordial chaos, things will start to shape and cool down, and the process of creating planets and black holes and whatnot. And that means it takes quite a bit of experimentation to get it right. People right now, as this year has confirmed, are still focused on the hype thing, right? They're focused on the casino slots, the casino chips. So when you have this type of behavior in games, the same user that used to play games like, I don't know, Candy Crush, if you put a valuable asset that you can take out in Candy Crush, the user behavior will change a lot, like really a lot. It's no longer about being fun, it's about being profitable, and then it's fun. So this we had to learn in the past 2-3 years, and we had to rethink several approaches, and we're putting all the lessons that we learned in version 4. So we're now at version 3 of the platform.
Mm-hmm.
We had to do a lot of things. It was The past 3 years were a bit crazy, and when I say a bit, I'm lying. It was a lot of crazy, but it helped us understand what is this beast about.
Right. I mean, that's every. I feel like it's only when somebody's like, I'm a serial entrepreneur and I'm on my third, fourth, fifth startup that they're like, I know all the mistakes to avoid that I made in my previous ones. But usually when it's somebody's long term, standing, building, or especially if they're building in a new sector, they're like, well, yeah, you have to learn the lessons the hard way. There's no way around it. But the important thing is they're like, as long as we're aware of what's working and what's not working and we can pivot to what's working, like we'll continue to see that success. It just is going to be a lot more frustrating than maybe we had
Oh yeah,
anticipated it,
oh yeah. I started
you know?
smoking 2 years ago, so just to imagine this.
Well, the saying goes, man plans, God laughs. Like
Oh
it's
yeah,
so
yeah,
it
yeah,
really. I feel like that is so true in just being an entrepreneur and starting your business and having to, because it's so different when you work for somebody else and shit hits the fan and you go, glad I don't have to deal with
yeah,
it. I'm still getting my paycheck. But when it's your
yeah,
project, you're like, no, it all comes back to me. Like I want this to be successful more than anybody else here, so I have to
yeah.
deal with all this, and that's part of the role, which is why I think a lot of entrepreneurs are like, you gotta be a little crazy to want to do this because the average person doesn't want to be under this much stress.
Well,
But
well,
but it's a very valuable, rewarding. I mean, especially for you, like considering where you came from. Like I can you imagine your younger self if you were like, look, you're gonna deal with a lot of shit along the way, but like, here's what you're gonna learn, and here's where we're gonna be 10, 20, 30 years from now. Your younger self would be like, I don't believe. Be like, well, hang on, because the ride's about to start, dude. Like, get ready for it, but you're gonna get somewhere.
I've always been the curious type, not always in my best interest. I'm curious about a lot of things, and this is the thing I have to put a lid on at times.
Hmm.
But building towards a new future for a specific industry that I've been in for the past 20 years, and I've managed to see all the ways I can get fucked up by publishing games, right?
Hmm.
Deals close in your face, friends that you thought you had in the industry all disappear like that. Um, Platforms close access, no reason, no explanation. And okay, let's do it. Like, okay, let's build something that is completely opposite to the experiences that we had so far, completely at the power and decision of the people that are using it. And I really believe, and I've seen it happen, that the future companies will be very small teams enabled by AI and their communities. Like
Yeah.
today, it's
Mhm.
all about that. And
Yeah.
it's
Well,
going to
and
be like that.
yeah, I would agree with that. When I mean, y'all talked about how you're trying want to utilize and you have been utilizing AI. Is there a particular way other than kind of like creating this everlasting or evergreen content, so to speak? Everlasting is probably better than evergreen because it's changing, obviously. Or is it more so just kind of like how a lot of people use it currently, where you're like, it's more so tools to complement your workflow to kind of remove that stuff that would bog you down unnecessarily and help kind of expedite things that you're like, we don't need a person to be doing this full time. We just need somebody to double check a lot of what the AI is doing for us.
All of the above. In the
Okay,
past
that's
three,
fair.
4 months, I'm going to give a shout out to the Unfungible team. They have been courteous enough to invite me to a lot of their X spaces. For some
Hmm.
reason, they think I have some intelligent things to say. I still try to prove them wrong, but and they were all about AI. And all summer with different amazing panelists, we debated about okay, what's the future? What's gonna be when AI kicks in harder in the gaming industry, and what are the segments that are gonna be covered? And there are a few that will actually, let's say, be empowered, right? Creativity is not something that I would ignore in humans,
Hmm.
but the ability to s- go from a pure idea in your head to something tangible in a very short amount of time comes with experience and the time spent doing a lot of shit. AI can
Completely.
shorten this, and it will enable a lot of people to put their ideas into practice. Now, where AI will come into place? Whoa, so many places. I would start with just a simple. I mean, I'm not bashing QA testers, but the testing of things can be easily done with AI. You
Hmm.
have it depending on the game that you have endless content, evergreen content, or you have NPCs, or you have both AI agents that act as NPCs, or you have your AI buddy that helps you progress in the game, gives you tips, makes you better, observes what you do. You have passive AI agents that play games for you and make a profit, but they are trained and depending on the model that you have and you own, they perform better or worse. You have AI that can generate the graphics. And one thing I want to mention, we did a demo with Copilot about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, before it was all the hype. But
Hmm.
Copilot was at the beginning, so it was really, oh my God, what is this? So we
Right.
made a simple demo with a ball, throwing it at the wall just to see it produces the effects that we wanted.
Hmm.
And that is when we saw firsthand that this technology is going to change a lot of things, but especially in games, is going to change the industry as a whole. Now,
Right.
coming back to where AI is going to be filling in, you have video creation, you have real-time environment generation. I just saw a video from Huawei or some Asian player where you actually play a 3D 4K game rendered live with AI. Okay,
Damn.
was it fake? I have no idea, but the
Sure.
promise is there, and I can see it happening because you have the chips, you have the knowledge, we have the capabilities, we have the internet connection, you have 5G. So every premise is there to for this thing to happen.
Right.
Okay, you have 3D asset generation. You have 2D asset generation with current models. Rigging. You have voice to text, voice to video, voice to text to voice. So you have these are areas that are connected to content, right? So what goes inside a game. But you also have game optimization, right? Where, okay, what makes a game fun? Well, this is a question that will be answerable by models in a short amount of time. Why? It's mathematics either way you put it. If you do it by hand as a game designer, you have to balance the level. You have to see where users drop off or where they are more excited and continue, and what are the techniques that you use to keep them there, right? Math. You measure that stuff. You do modifications, and you go back into the world, test it again, measure it again. Okay, you will have a model that learns this in real time and adjusts on a user per user basis in a way that products will be better in time. So I just touched several areas regarding where AI is going to be in the development process. And I didn't even mention the code. So I didn't touch that part.
Right.
Actually, in the code side of things, I see the following near-term reality where you have architects and experienced people that use AI as a powerhouse, but the architecture and the technical solutions are going to be still given by a human.
Well, and I think that's the thing too, that like I think a lot of people are worried with AI. It's funny because like the more it's around, I think people were initially concerned they're like AI is going to take my job, and then in the gaming sector, people were like, no, no, these are the jobs that like as time goes on, like people are like, this is a tedious job that like even people who do the job are like, I don't want to do this long term. It's like an entry level, like you got to prove your worth job for a lot of people. Where don't get me wrong, there's designers out there who are like, I love designing 3D models all day, every day. That's all I want to do for the rest of my career. But I've met plenty of people who are like, it's tedious. I don't like doing it. I'd rather be working on character creation, storyline, level design, like almost anything else. And so that's something where I've always heard they're like, when we can nail that down, and we're getting there, that's going to be a huge one that a lot of people are looking forward to utilizing. I'm sure you could name like 10 other examples outside of that. That's just the one I've heard a lot about.
Yeah.
Well, and two, does WAM support user-generated content, or are you planning to support user-generated content in the future?
Yes.
Is that kind of what the... I don't know if you already currently enact, or if that's kind of part of what AI is supposed to help play a part in.
Yeah. We wanted to jump the gun and launch it quite a while back. But we stopped for the following reason. We realized that in order to have a proper tool for users to use to create content specific for our platform, let's say to make games, we needed to make it right. And if we just put shit out there, it's just going to be more headache for us and frustration for the user. So we decided to keep focusing and applying the lessons that we learned in the past 3 years, and we're getting to it. Because user-generated content, helped by AI, is a form of expression, right? You're creating something because you want to express whatever goes through your mind. And in a gaming environment, in a gaming platform, the expression is I want to make games that are fun with my friends.
Right.
And have fun with my friends. And we want to make that experience right.
Well, yeah, and I think, too, it's been a proven successful metric in traditional gaming with plenty of games and platforms that people clearly have a lot of value, who might otherwise maybe never learn to code or be a developer, be on like a game development team where they're like, this is as close as I get for me. And for me, it's as simple as maybe creative writing. Whereas like all the assets are put in an easy to understand way, and you're like, well, I can build a game, do whatever, however the user-generated content is aggregated, but I don't have to go through all the rigorous learning. Like I've had friends who are like, I tried to teach myself Unity, and it's cool, but it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. It kind of took all the fun out of building a game. And then you have people who'll be like, but I go into Minecraft or Roblox and build a game, or Dreams like on PlayStation, or Nintendo's done it in multiple ways, and people are like, that was more fun to me. And I'm like, well, they just aggregated it down to an easy to use interface for you, so you don't have to deal with all the boring, non-fun stuff maybe for you. Whereas other people obviously love it and have no problem. There's a reason those platforms are still getting used. But I mean, so aside from gaming, do you really see like any of the technology you're using in WAM being applied to other industries in the future, or are you more so really wanting to just continue to hone and develop this gaming sector? Since especially that's kind of like where your bread and butter lies, like your experience,
I'm interested, let's say, full time in making a better platform for the gaming industry. But one thing that we saw and we're gonna put out for sale in very soon is actually a solution to a problem that we've had for quite a while. Since we entered the Web3 space, we've experienced a whole array of fraudulent attempts in gaming the system any way possible, where users were attempting to get tokens and dump them in the market. And they were able to do it at first because the games that you play on WAM are played on your phone. That means these are client-based games. But when you have tournament-based games or tournaments, and you need the user to submit a score to a server, you need a way to trust the data. Given that the data is generated on your phone, it's just trust me bro type of authentication and verification, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we kept searching for a solution. One of them was to pay, let's say, an AI company that handles a lot of data, and they would just tell us, okay, this is a cheater and this is not a cheater. But it was not optimal for two reasons. First, it costed us more than we could afford. And secondly, it was not specifically designed for us, and it was not what we intended. So we kept thinking about, okay, what's the solution? There must be a solution. And we wanted to make a decentralized solution, a permissionless solution, a protocol, if you will, and this is where the WAM token is going to be integrated as well, And we came up with the idea that is not the specific solution is our idea, but the node idea in crypto is not ours. We didn't invent it. A lot of smarter people did it before us. But we saw the following thing. What about if we made nodes that run in your browsers? You don't have to install servers. This is one main thing. You just, it's an add-on. And using, again, a web technology that I like, which is WebGPU in combination with WebAssembly, to validate user scores in a peer-to-peer matter. Just imagine that you enter on WAM in a tournament. The moment you enter the tournament, all of a sudden you have like a 5 or 6, 7 peer-to-peer connections with different validator nodes that are randomly picked each time you enter a tournament that wait for you to continue from the place you died. Let's say you have levels and you die at a point with throwing the ball. At that point, if you as a user want to continue from that score, you have to validate this score. And it will happen in the following way. A small screenshot of your canvas will be sent to these validators, and they will have to analyze the image and extract the score from the image, regardless of the game. So the idea is, okay, now we have, let's say, 30 games on the platform. What happens if we have 35,000 games? These validators should not care the format of the screen. They should be able to very accurately and fastly decide or extract the score that was submitted, then send it back to the server to reach a consensus, right? Did you make 7 or 5? So if you have like votes, 50% or 60% of the nodes say, yeah, the score 7 is correct, and it's not the user did not cheat on this. We're going to allow it to register into the leaderboard. The user goes on with his game. This has to happen in very short time frames, like milliseconds, everything. And the validator gets rewarded for this effort. The small amount the user paid goes to the fastest validator, and then the validator also has native tokens that are won based on the work that he put in to validate scores. And the models can run in the user's browser. And using WebGPU, we have direct access to the graphics card. And it will be open for everybody to use, so not just for us. We're not the only ones having this issue.
Sure.
Every game developer, every publisher that wants to use it, they just have to use the protocol and use it in a decentralized way. And then you get validation. And the idea is that we're making it in a Lego style way where we can also plug in different third-party providers. And one comes to mind, for instance, doing decentralized KYC. And you as a node already get rewards for doing this, right? So this is I would say this is an AI infrastructure for games. But I don't want to necessarily use the infrastructure word just to throw it in there because it sounds cool. But it actually is one of those things that is helpful. And it's a solution for us to fucking open the gates. Because we had to keep them a bit tight. Because when we had a very huge amount of traffic, you can imagine the amount of... we had 10,000 people in 3-day tournaments on the leaderboards. And we had prizes, and we had to check them, and it was a bit tedious, to say the least.
Right. Well, and it's interesting too because I love how the node concept, well, the node technology, because it's not a concept, has taken off in Web3 gaming. And I'm seeing more and more companies enact it. I'm curious too because I've seen some companies like they've even said that like let's say like an ASIC, which is for Bitcoin mining, which once it's past its prime date, they're like, well, it can still work as a node for us. So it's interesting to see how you can kind of extend the longevity for some of these mining rigs that otherwise may just have to go like to the landfill or be scrapped. But I'm curious too, like, so what happens if you don't have enough users to operate those nodes. Is that where you rely on like those third party providers saying, hey, like maybe we're a little short this day or this week, we need some extra computer, we need some extra node power, and this is what you kind of have to like balance the scales for? Or I mean, maybe if you've never run into that issue, you know, where you always have plenty of users for your nodes.
I will be very frank. I have no idea how to answer this question because I have not run into the issue.
That's fair.
We will from what I see, I'm just speculating here, but
Sure,
I
sure.
expect that we will have to run some nodes for, let's say, always online type of operation. Let's say all of the nodes decide that one day they just want to be on offline for that day or for a week. The platform still needs to operate. And if it's integrated with the node technology and the node validation, somebody has to answer the calls, right? So
Right.
that means we're gonna have to run them, which is fine because as I said, it's again something that we create and want to be useful. So having a very close connection with what goes on with them is a good thing. And further than this, I have no idea. We will see what happens when we start selling them and we start putting them into production and seeing what happens. A lot of things can change or modify until then.
Sure, sure. No, that's fair. Well, I really only have two more questions I wanted to ask you, so only respect for your time. But I wanted to know, was there anything we missed that? Because my last two questions are kind of just fun questions. I like to think they're just about you and about other stuff. So I wanted, is there anything we missed about WAM? You know, where people can find out more about them, where they can find out more about you, things you know maybe have coming up, tournaments, ideas, just the stuff that I missed that we didn't get to talk about that you really are burning for people to know.
Well, they can easily find us at wham.app. Simple as that. All the details about us, all the LinkedIn's, all the contracts, all our previous results and the growth that we had and everything that we published. One other thing that I didn't mention is, for instance, where is this hat from? What's the idea with the hat, right? So it's not just a company prop. We're gonna launch our NFT collection in the right time. We wanted to launch it last year as a Bitcoin ordinal. So basically, let me share this a bit. Oh, my hair is. See this?
Yeah.
Okay, this is a vampire. And what is it? You can see all the motifs here. You see bats and Bitcoin and Solana and WAM. We didn't have a face to the project, and we kept working on the concept for about a year and a half because we're slow in this part of the world. But we came up with really cool characters called vampires because we're in the middle of Transylvania, so this is kind of like home. And I like wearing hats. I like hats, and we didn't have any. If I were to wear a cool hat, honestly, I don't have a big array of choices where I can just okay, this is actually a cool hat.
Mm-hmm.
And we designed this hat, top to bottom. We tested it. This is the first production demo. This is the coming off right with Velcro.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea was okay, we're gonna make a cool hat that comes with the NFTs that we're gonna sell, which are Bitcoin and Solana mix. And if you don't like the WAM logo, and most likely you don't have a reason to wear a freaking WAM logo on your face unless you're part of the team, you can
Right.
actually take it down
Mm-hmm.
and put something else instead that we're going to also sell. And everything will happen in the tokens that we have and in our ecosystem. These will be produced in a 10,000 limited amount,
Mm-hmm.
limited supply of hats. And this is the way we understand to build a community. I have no idea if we're gonna if it's the right strategy, but it feels right.
Yeah.
So these are the things that we didn't cover during the hour that flew very fast.
It usually does, man. Well, and that's really cool to hear about the vampires. I think that's very fitting for where you're at and for what you're doing with the game or with the company. Sorry. I'm really looking forward to seeing that release. Really, the only other questions I have is, I always people like yourselves who have like a multitude of experience and really can share so much. I'm curious, like, what advice would you give to inspiring entrepreneurs looking to start their journey, whether it's in Web3 gaming space, maybe a totally different sector? Just, do you have any key lessons or tips you think that would help those wanting to innovate in, especially in an industry like this that's constantly evolving?
So the first thing I would give advice would be never take advice from a guy with a WAM hat and a beard from the internet. Uh, there's a reason for that. Everybody gives advice in this day and age, and I've grown to hate it, like visceral hate. And the reason I'm hating it, but I'll get to the advice part, is most of it is bullshit, right?
Sure.
Now, if you want to start out, there are tons of ways to start out. The the best way that worked for me was just do it. Just do it. It's not the most sane way to do it, by the way. It's just the way I did it.
Sure.
If you have a different temperament or different personalities, maybe different strategies can be applied. And strategy is a very strong word for just a way of doing things, right? This is actually what I mean. And the second advice would be ethical. It pays to have a good reputation,
Yes.
especially when you're young, and especially in crypto. Nobody gives a shit about this, and I do. I care about that, and I honestly believe this is the only way you can sleep well at night. But this is just me. A lot of other people will just say, "Oh, you're full of shit. Just buy, dump, buy. This is
Right.
it." No. If you want to build things, I can help. There are a lot of lessons that I've learned. If you want to just be a grifter, I have no experience in that, and I cannot help. And I hope you burn and die. Right. But one other advice, and the final one, would be just find the right people to hang out with and ask older people what their experience was. Don't be afraid to look stupid. Regardless of if you want or not, you will look stupid, but don't be afraid of that.
Right.
And that's about it.
Oh, I think that's all solid advice, man. I mean, I having been through it myself, I'm like, yeah, I agree with you. Like, I'm like, just do it. That's the hardest thing for so many people to just start. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to figure it out. I think most people I meet when I'm like, why haven't you done your, like, people have been talking about something for years. I'm like, why haven't you done this yet? They're like, well, I'm still figuring this out. I got to make it perfect. I'm like, so you're never going to do it because it's never going to
Oh
be
yeah.
perfect, dude. You're never going to figure it out. Just do it. You'll learn lessons as long as you don't have a risk of going bankrupt from just doing it. And let me tell you, any entrepreneur or starter would say there's always a risk of going bankrupt at any time. So you
It was
gotta,
literally on my tongue.
you gotta just accept that fact. I don't know. I just, I agree with you. Just do it. Try to find the right people. I find more and more people who really, I say this, the people in Web3 who I think are doing successful have their own moral code of ethics. And the people who don't, there's a reason you never hear about them or their projects because nobody once they realize it's a rug, people are like, I never want to work with, hear about that person ever again because it's an unforgiving, in a good way, unforgiving environment where once you sullied your reputation, good luck coming back. You'd have to like reinvent yourself.
From what I've seen, it would be nice for the entire Web3 and crypto industry to be like that, but not everybody abides to this,
No.
unfortunately. But things will change. And one thing about going bankrupt, I think unknowingly I went bankrupt several times. I think if I ask my spouse, she will actually point the date and the exact time when that happened.
Right.
When you start out, if the amount of curiosity is bigger than the amount of nightmares that you have, you're on the right path. And to translate what the right path is the one that you want to be on.
Right.
There's no other definition. There's no. Everything is very particular and context based to you
Yeah.
as a person.
Completely. I would 100% agree with that. I mean, all solid advice, man. I appreciate that. Really, the last question I have is, since you've been gaming for a long time, like, what were some of your favorite games growing up? Like, what really like thrust you in to be like, man, this is something I want to be a part of, and like make you want to develop Flash games and all that.
Well, as I mentioned at the beginning, the main reason I went into Flash games was the opportunity that presented itself and the hunger, like physical, literal hunger, and no
Sure.
pants and jeans, right? But it was 1997, and I was at my cousin's house, and they had a computer. It was my first contact with a computer. Actually, no, it was around that time. There were some I don't know what the translation for in English is. Places where kids would group up, like
Oh, a mall?
no. Like from the Ministry of Education, you had like uh, houses where teachers would come in and you'd have different subjects, like an alternative type of learning, right?
Oh, okay,
And there
sure, sure.
were they had computers, but the real experience with a computer and a game was at my cousin's house, and the game was Hercules.
Hmm.
I can see it today, I can feel it today. And then during high school, I played Gothic, which was a dragon slaying type of RPG. I played it so many times I could even recite the conversations, the dialogues. And one other game that was very is at the base of my career was called Dark Throne, which is a MMORPG, text-based, where you just had to build your castle, attack other people, create alliances, and plunder other people for gold, create your defenses. So awesome! Like I was in high school, and it was so freaking awesome. And then Skyrim.
Sure.
These are the games, but also I don't know, everything that is RPG. By the way, this is a bit um, contrasting, right? I'm building a platform that is for at this stage for hyper casual tournaments, simple games that you play with your friends, skill based. But
Hmm.
I'm more into single player RPGs where you can kill fauna and flora at will, right? For rewards.
No, but that's fair. I mean, I think everybody is different. Like, it's funny. There are some I've met both varying where people in Web3 are building a game where they're like, these are the games I always loved playing growing up. So I was like, this is the only game I'm gonna make. And then people who are like, the game I'm actually developing is not even in the wheelhouse of the games I grew up or were interested in playing, but it's where my skills and expertise lie. So it's been a great, like, I have no complaints. But it's just there is always that interesting divide. I've seen it go both ways. But as a fantasy fan myself, I am unfamiliar with any of the games you have talked about. I think I've heard of them, and I probably am going to go watch Let's Plays or long play content after this, just for out of my curiosity or later today. But I'm very much a fantasy fan myself. Like, I love dark fantasy, any sort of fantasy game. So I'm right there with you.
Give me one.
Oh, so like I love anything in the Dark Souls series, like any
Oh,
of the
okay.
dark fantasy. So I'm a big fan of that. I too love Skyrim. I loved Morrowind.
Yeah,
Oblivion
yeah.
was great. World of Warcraft was great too.
Oh yeah.
It's funny. I was always playing MMOs at other people's house because we had a computer, but that was something where, like, as a kid, when you're trying to convince your parents, they're just like, you're like, come on, it's only like $5 a month. They're like, then you make the money, and you're like, ah, shit, I can't make the money, so I
Yeah.
guess I can't do this. Like, so that was always me. Is I was like, man, I couldn't figure out how to make the money other than literally like being like, can I mow your lawn? They're like, you did that last week. I'm like, can I mow it again? They're like, no. I'm like, then I
Yeah,
guess I'm
yeah,
not making
yeah.
money this week. Like, so I was very poor at figuring out how to make money. I had a lot of things I wanted to do. I just didn't know how to make the money to do it. So I was like playing at friends' house whose parents would do it, or they could make the money, and I was like, yeah, let me just play for a bit. And that's how I got a lot of my exposure. But yes, I'm a big fan of fantasy, man. So I respect that.
Cool. Cool.
But Donnie, thank you so much for talking with me. Appreciate your time. Really appreciate
Same here,
everything
man.
you're doing. Love where your ethics are at. Love where your heart and head is at, and really looking forward to everything you continue to do for yourself and with WAM, man.
Cool, man.